Okay, so I want to take you through um, a few objects, what we did in class on Wednesdays. We're looking at print, bang, toggle, make note. I'm going to save metro for another video, talk about just these first four things. So print object is a useful window into what's going on in Max. It's the standard output in programming terms. It sends this output to the Max console. So if I were to connect a number and type a number, send that to print, it comes out in the Max console over here. I can send a message, which I'm going to type M for message, unlock my patch, type M for message, and let's say, hello, world. So messages are objects that are useful for sending constants. They just, when you click on them or send them any messages, they output their message. So I can click on hello world, it goes to print, puts hello world into the Max console. I can also give the print object a label like useful info, and then send the same two things over here. And now if I type in a number, say 50, hit enter, and instead of print being the label of the output, useful info is. So this is helpful, or here's hello world. It's helpful in a complicated patch to know what data you're looking at in the console to make sure things are working as expected. I use print objects all the time in my performance patches and my more complicated installation patches so that I can see that the patch is working without having to turn the sound on. I see the basis setup is happening and those things are going on. It's very important. So we've got those. I'm going to put them over to the side for now and look at the button. I actually want to keep them around. So button, it's up here on the menu. If you take the first one, it'll pop up. Or if you want to use the keyboard shortcut in an open patch, type B, and it shows up where your cursor is. So I'm putting it into the print object. Bang object sends, or the button object sends a bang message when it's clicked on, when it receives any input. And that bang message tells an object to do that thing you do. So it can be a very useful way for starting a process or setting up the parameters in a patch. A variety of things. Kind of a kill switch could be set up, and so to do that thing you do could be to shut everything down. But in this case, if I click on it, you see that it actually prints out the message bang. And that's all that comes out if I create another one up here and tie to the number box. A bang to the number box is going to send the output of the number box again without me typing a new number. So the 12 comes out. Or a bang to the message would just be like me clicking the message. Do that thing you do, and the message object sends out its contents. Hello world. Okay. Buttons can be resized, recolored. You'll see those things in their inspector. Select an object, choose the inspector. If you need information about what it does, you have the reference object. We'll show you messages, attributes, and similar objects that you can use. So all these are useful built-in help systems. I'm going to leave these things now, move them over to the side. So we've done print and the button. We've also come up with the messages. So we've been making notes so far by just having MIDI input in with note in, and then having that echo to note out. So let's think about how we could use the computer to generate notes and generate both the note on and note off messages internally and send them out. So um, there is an object called Makenote. Makenote needs a velocity argument, let's say 127 because louder is always better, and a duration for now, 1,000 milliseconds. And just to recap something we've talked about in class, the default timing system for Macs is milliseconds. So it can also take a MIDI channel, but we don't need it. Makenote has to be hooked up to Note Out. And when you hook it up, you have to make sure that you're hooking up both the pitch, the MIDI note number, and the velocity, because you cannot have a note on or a note off if it doesn't have velocity. So we connect those two things. This second patch cord will be one of your more common mistakes. Leaving it out will be one of your more common mistakes as you go through. I'm going to hook up a number box, integer number box, typing I to make that come up as a shortcut, I for integer. And then locking my patch, and I type in 60, and the note comes out for 60 seconds. Type it again, or bang it with a button. Okay. Now remembering from our patchers before, right now it looks like I've got a kind of shakuhachi sound. I'll do a program out and a number box and can change back to synthesizer. All right, so what it's doing is it's sending a note on message first for that MIDI note, receives it in the input, sends a note on message, and 1,000 milliseconds later it's sending the note off. And you can look at this. Let's hook it up to a print object. Let's call it print note. And you can see velocity, note number, velocity, note number. So things are always coming out of objects in right to left order, and I'm going to talk about that more. This becomes a mantra in how you order information in your patch. But you can just see anytime it makes a note, MIDI note, or velocity note for the note off, and Makenote is working. I can change the velocity and the duration with number boxes. So an integer, the velocity. Say I want the velocity to be 60. Now when I send my note, it's not as loud. Go back to 127. Nothing happens when I send the velocity. So the object only triggers when it gets a note in its left inlet. That's another Max feature. We'll talk about that more on Friday. Back it's loud again. And you can see the change in velocity. So the note on with the velocity of 60 and the note was 48, then it was off. 127, 48, then 0, 48, it's off. All right? And that allows us to automate the creation of notes. So what I'm going to do next time is do a little bit more with the Makenote, talk about the Metro object, randomness, and how to get input information from the MIDI keyboard to control that whole process. So that's enough for this one. Got another one coming.